3 is the future.
Welcome to Video Game Book Club discussion. Tonight we are discussing the Ori Duology, Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Today with me are Dan. Say hello, Dan.
Hello, Dan.
travg.
Hello, travg.
And saturnrogue.
Hello, saturnrogue.
Excellent. Everyone understood the assignment. I am your Video Game Book Club final boss, infocynic, and yeah, let's get this started. Just as a word of warning here to everyone listening, I'm going to keep this spoiler-free for about the first 15 minutes. If we're on the ball, we'll have Dan put in show notes to make sure that you know where to stop listening, and we'll put a big, warning to make sure everyone's clear. So, full gameplay spoilers allowed here in the first 15, just no story elements. So, starting with that, let's talk about, from a gameplay perspective, what did you like the most about the game? Or the games in general?
And we'll go ahead and we'll start with Travis here on this one.
So, I've never played a game like this before. It was an absolute pleasure to play. I really enjoyed it, but the bash in particular, I really struggled with early on. And just right before we were doing this recording, I went back to the Jinso tree, and I still am really struggling with that whole bash, redirecting of the light. I got it figured out eventually, but I struggled with it. I still love the game. I was so thrilled when I got through with it. And 100% I would do it again.
You have some more, Travis? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going through it again. Now, I remarked in the chat last week where now that I was playing Will o' the Wisp and I had launch, like that changed me as a person. That changed me as Ori, where like you just suddenly do everything and anything. And so to go back when you can't just launch, it made it a lot harder. But anyways, back to the main question. Yeah, I struggled with the physics, but I loved it nonetheless.
Okay. Saturn, favorite parts about the game, just like what did you enjoy the most or dislike the most? I guess I'll be flexible here.
Well, let's start with the dislikes. I guess the challenge is like trying to figure out how to just jump from one specific section to another, trying to maneuver it. Another thing that I had struggling with was once it gave me a scenario of what was going on, I had no clue what I had to do. I was pretty much stuck in one section. I'm like, okay, where do I go? How do I get the map? How do I unlock this? I'm so clueless. Like there's a couple of times I almost gave up in the game. I'm like, okay, I don't think I can do this anymore. But you could say this is more like a bittersweet kind of thing, because even though I was struggling, in the end, it was worth it. I enjoyed it because that challenge just it pushed me through just to at least try to complete the game or just keep trying to get to those next levels. Yeah, I might not have gotten it to 100%, but I enjoyed it nevertheless,
Dan.
First of all, it's like any Metroidvania where you just kind of, you're like, oh, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do this. And you see the stuff that teases you. And I've played so many through the years. I'm like, I know I can't do this. I'm not going to frustrate myself. I'll come back later. But the thing I'll say overall about the gameplay is you have to be comfortable with dying, because unless you're infocynic, you die a lot. The guy who, spoiler, has completed both games somehow, never dying, completed the Ori Immortal challenge in both games. But that's a discussion I want to have later. That's not in the officially submitted questions to InfoCynic. We're gonna get to that though. I'm gonna hijack this later. But what I have to say, they do a really good job of giving you the skill and making you use it. So you have to learn it and you adapt to it. And the other thing I have to say, I kind of teased in a conversation previously, I appreciate the music of this game the entire way. One, yeah, listen, there's some emotional augmentation. I'm never going to call it manipulation because the plot itself is manipulative enough. I say lovingly, but the music, when I'm dying 100 times in an escape, the music is making me not dread it at the same time. So the music did a lot of carrying for me to compensate for my skill problems, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely want to. I'm gonna circle back to the music a little bit later, more in the spoiler section, because I think it's hard to separate the music from the story in some ways. Mechanically, I, I can't say I've ever played a game where the movement feels just as fluid as it does here in Ori. Especially by the time you've got Bash. I don't even like. I love launch. Don't get me wrong, but like I think the movement for me, like once you've got double jump and Bash, and I guess I'd throw in maybe air dash. The first game wasn't built around air dash. It was definitely added later. Uh, the second game was built with air dash in mind, and it's just so fluid. I feel like I could just almost stay airborne forever. Obviously, can't. It, the freedom of movement you have. Okay, this is going to be a double jump into a bash, into a glide, an air dash. Jump again because I bashed off something. Grab this wall for a second. The stringing those things together feels so much fun to me, and that's why I have played these games. I want to say it's probably double digits for Blind Forest and probably 7 or 8 for Will of the Wisps now. Full playthroughs, start to finish, roll credits. Not all those are 100%, but most of them are.
I have to say the funny thing, there's what 5 years difference between the two games, something like that. But it's pleasant going from one to the other with just the movement, not all the skills added and all that, but just how clean the movement is in Blind Forest and holds up. And Will of the Wisps, you're able to kind of move along and kind of navigate things. It felt pretty smooth.
Yeah, and I liked, especially in Will of the Wisps, that they don't waste a lot of time getting you back those key abilities. You get Bash very early in Will of the Wisps, whereas in Blind Forest, while it's an early ability, it's several hours into the game if you're doing a kind of a
They
first.
just changed the button though, and that was devastating to me.
Oh my gosh, there was a week where I was going back and forth playing both games. I would sign up the testing the checkpoints for this game and finishing up my Blind Forest run. Oh, like my brain just about broke. So many of my deaths were attributable to hitting the wrong button on Bash, and just it's over, man.
No, 100%, 100%. Like I said, just tonight it's the first time I turned on the Blind Forest since I had actually finished it, and suddenly my brain was dead. I could not figure out how to bash, and you cannot play the game if you don't bash.
Yeah.
One of the things that I like about Will of the Wisp, though, is the beginning. As soon as you start, the music is just very soothing. Like, it's very calming. It's one of the things I enjoy. But like, I agree with y'all. It was hard to switch from one specific controller to another one, and you're like, okay, I can't. What am I doing? One of the things. This is my opinion, but I think it disappointed me was to unlock certain what is it? Spirit, new movement, new skills. I was a bit like, okay, I got to keep switching. I don't have enough slots yet.
Oh yeah, in Will of the Wisps, where you kind of like, you get new abilities, but you can only have 3 equipped, sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor there. We can keep the spoiler free a little bit longer. One of the things I want to definitely get into is Will-O-Wisps came out. Let's check the dates here, Dan, but maybe we can go by memory and check our mass database. I want to say like a year or two after Hollow Knight, it feels like.
Yeah, you're right. It was 2020. It was like, I think, 2018 for Hollow Knight and 2020. I know Will-O-Wisps was 2020. I know that for sure. It's 2017,
Yeah.
2018 for
Yeah, I'll
Hollow
check
Knight.
Holiday here, but you can see the influence plain as day here. Like that, there was a time, and I'm not sure that time has even passed. Where every Metroidvania, just like, oh, it's a 2D Metroidvania. We've got to do something like Charms. You know, you got to have equipable accessories, and that are gonna, you're gonna find them all over the place. And you're gonna, unlock new powers or change up your abilities by those. I'm not saying that to be a bad thing, but it is like okay, guys, like the Hollow Knight definitely did this first. Hollow Knight was
Well,
2017.
It's funny because in Blind Forest, because this was my second playthrough, and I did not go into the bonus section the first time I played it. I never went down there. I didn't know it was there. I felt stupid when I found it was there. But like, I felt like a Terminator at the end of Blind Forest because of having all the, like, I just mowed everything down. So I kind of appreciated Will-O-Wisps making me have to do that, so I wasn't completely overpowered. I was still jacked with, health and energy, which like helped me survive just fine. But I kind of appreciated having it handcuff me a little bit.
Fair, that's fair. And like, as far as the equipable slots, it's not really your movement abilities there. It is just kind of like, offensive powers, other than launch, really is the one that does get stuck on those on those three slots. But personally, I kept Light Burst on that slot, and basically I replaced Light Burst with launch as soon as I get it, because I'm using Light Burst to vertically climb places. I'll launch the Light Burst projectile, double jump up to it, and bash off of it just to clear obstacles faster. That's one of the reasons I do that region first in every playthrough, just about because I want that ability so bad. You can take some nice shortcuts in the Luma pools if you have it. All right. I think the last spoiler-free thing we can really talk about that makes sense is the escapes. Again, we don't have to tie them like narratively to what they are, but we can talk about like, oh, it's the one in this area.
I can tell you one thing: the escapes. It had me rage quitting a couple of times. I was like, how many times am I going to keep dying on the same spot? Like, this is frustrating. Like, you keep trying to do the same moves over and over again. You're trying to figure out, okay, how do I jump from this section to another section? And no matter what you do, you always get caught in that same spot. Eventually, you're like, okay, don't do that same move again. Try something else. We'll get the hang of this.
Or you don't see the little dot on the screen that, like, oh, I should have seen that, and that's what I've got to do the bash off of, or
Right.
that's the side I have to go on. Like, I had that the first time I remember for the water escape, especially. I'm like, or no, it wasn't the water escape. I'll just say it's the final escape. I'm like, what am I even supposed to do? Oh, now I see. Okay, I get it. But there's some of those where you're like, I died 27 times, not even knowing what I'm supposed to do here.
Oh,
But
I
still
thought I
loved
was.
it.
I thought I had to teleport through those water spouts, realizing that, okay, this is how I die. What am I doing?
There was less of that in the second game. There was a lot more in the second game for me, where I felt like I was playing, when you go into Uncharted and you see all the spots, or like Last of Us, and you're playing a Naughty Dog game, you're like, oh, I see all the cover. There's a fight that's going to be going down here on my return. And I felt a lot more of that in Will-O-Wisps in those sections where I'm like, oh, all right, I can plan my escape on the way in. I felt good because I could actually see it. It's not like, I guess the wind temple, you get that, we'll say, but like the
Yeah.
water temple or the water escape, you're going to wholly uncharted territory. You don't know where you're going. You don't get to see it. I know
Yeah,
I died a lot the first time. I had to have died 100 times alone in the water escape the first time I played it. I know where I was in a parking garage in Pittsburgh while my wife and son were in a theater show, and I was just chauffeuring them, and I just had my Switch and died 175 times, and finally got it.
I'll say, like, I absolutely loved the escapes on the first game. So, and guys, I played both of these for the first time just in the last 2 months. But the first game, it was totally new to me. Like I said, the physics, the bash, I was totally screwed over. Like, I just couldn't understand it. But when I finally got through the Jinso tree, when I finally got the bash figured out, that escape after that was one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in gaming, because finally it made sense. Like, I finally got it. And so the work to get there, and my wife will say, like, she heard me swearing so many times about, like, yeah, sorry, I'll keep this clean. But when I finally got it, and that's when infocynic, you and I were kind of talking, where you thought it was on that water escape or the final escape on the Jinso.
Yeah.
But it was before then that I was so struggling with. And so when I finally figured it out, and then the final escape was so awesome, and the music, we'll talk about it more, but the music on both of these games is so awesome. Like, when I'm doing those sorts of parts of the game, I cranked it on my 5.1 surround sounds system, and it was so amazing.
Boy, my first playthrough of Blind Forest was probably 9 to 10 years ago. It was so. So that's a fun trivia fact if you didn't catch it when we started. We started to the day, the 10th anniversary of Blind Forest's original release, which was
And
deliberate.
5 years to the day of Will of the Wisps, because they released on the same day.
Yeah. I want to say about 2 years after the first game, they put out the definitive edition. Which is, it's possible, Dan, if you played the original like way back, but that would have been you don't have an Xbox.
Oh no, I absolutely played the definitive. No, there's no excuse for me missing what I missed.
Well,
I appreciate
that's
the nicest thing you've ever done for me. You're trying to look out for me there. No, I was just a moron.
That's possible. I will say that water escape against Jinso tree. I just believe that I was like, hey, do we know how to pronounce this? The answer is no, not definitively. That escape, I must have died, probably 100 times on my first playthrough, and now it's to the point where all these playthrough laters, I can hit that cold in a playthrough and ace it. I submitted a clip of the week for it. Like, I show the cutscene, like, this is not a restart. The cutscene doesn't play on restart, which, thank goodness, that would be so obnoxious if it did. And just, it wasn't perfect. Like, I really thought I was going to die. I was under the water, but I just kept jumping and climbing and made it out. And I wound up doing that a second time with Will of the Wisps on that the first real escape there. I don't count the little mini escape from the wolf. That's real escape. That's a tutorial.
It was a warm up. Just reminding you what game you're playing.
I think, overall across the two games, I would personally say the Sandworm escape is probably the hardest to get right the first time cold. I think knowing how to do it the second time makes it a little bit easier. Dan, you got this look like
that was the one. That was the one I nailed one try because I saw everything on the way, and like I clocked everything on the way in, and I amazingly did that without dying on the first try. I was shocked. There was one time I came close. Like one of your clips, you had like in the water escape in the second game. You had one where like it looked like you were dead, and you managed to get out of it. I had that too. That I was like, oh, I thought I was going to get through this in one try. Wait, I'm not dead. I'm still in this. Let's go. We're not dead yet.
Yeah. Runner up, I would say, is probably the element of the wind in Blind Forest, where you've got those rocks falling from the ceiling, and it's really hard to read those cold.
Because you don't, because there is no way to read it. Like, okay, I've got to go up, I've got to wait for the ceiling to fall, then I got to go back up again, I got to drop down here, and you have no way to know it until you've died 5 times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, like
at least it's not random.
Multiple playthroughs, but like you have to die.
I absolutely want to run through all of the escapes again because that's the biggest part of the game. And maybe it's my emotions speaking right now, but again, to go back to the Jinso tree, I was so ready to throw my controller through my TV just before that's the one that I remember the most, and that it to me is the most rewarding one. Is like, okay, I finally get this. I finally understand.
I think that's my personal favorite escape. A lot of, for the same reasons, is the overcoming it that first time. And let's face it, that music is probably my favorite.
100%.
Dad, what you got? What do you think? Thoughts about the escapes?
Oh, I want to piggyback what travg said. I mean, like, yeah, there was times that I was ready to just say, you know what, I can't do this. The water escape, I lost count how many times I had died in the same spot. Eventually, I figure it out, but like you said, once you get through it, it's very rewarding, and I do want to give it another shot. This time, put a lot more focus into it, try to get it complete as much as possible as well. Maybe try a different difficulty. Because I had it normal. I know everybody else I posted, they try hard or extreme. So, why not give it a bit of challenging, I might get more angrier, but at least it'll be worth it, because at least
so
I know.
You looked at a spike, you're dead. Nice try.
Right.
Don't even look at it.
But Saturn, I'm going to now piggyback off of you, where like more and more when I play games, I set it to easy because I just want to have fun. I want to enjoy it. But when I've seen like what infocynic has done, like to finish this game in like under 4 hours or whatever it is, to finish it without dying, and such props to infocynic for being able to do that. And maybe I want to try that. But right now, I've really enjoyed
You don't want to try that one.
Yeah. I actually, honestly, the speed run is a lot of fun, but you've got to know the game.
Yeah, have fun. Go nuts with the speed run. Ori Immortal will only be owned by one person that I know.
Dan, I suspect you're right. And like I said, I played these games for the first time in the last 2 months, but so much props to the Video Game Book Club for even like they pushed me to play it because I wanted to. But this is what the push was, and I've so enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Even on easy mode, love it.
Hey,
no regrets.
Difficulty judgment stone free, whatever. That sentence didn't come out right, but you get the idea. Play games on the difficulty that works for you and makes it fun. Period. Full stop.
100%. Dude, I died a lot, even on easy mode, but I was learning brand new physics. Like I said, I so enjoyed it, and I will be back.
All right, let's go ahead and make this our cutoff for spoiler-free territory. So, big spoiler warning, people. I'm going to vamp here for a minute while you quick figure out how to hang up quit the podcast episode. Skip to the next track, whatever you want. But here we go. It's time for some story spoilers.
I'll throw an air horn in here too. We'll
Dan's going to post an air horn.
Right here's the air horn.
All right. So, these games, I mean, I feel like the number one comment we make whenever someone talks about, like, oh, I want to try Ori, is have your Kleenex ready.
I like how you refrained from, like, it's the first 5 minutes of the game is the first kick in the teeth. And you're like, oh, and I like how everybody's like, we're just going to leave that out of the spoiler-free zone, even though it's the first 5 minutes of the game.
You know, if you haven't played it, you've got to experience that story for yourself. And I think it, you know, the warning to have Kleenex is fair, but I don't want to even spoil that first 5 minutes. It's just it's so visceral just seeing that, like it gets you.
It's like the never-ending story for I think we're all of that generation. Like everybody, no, you're not going to warn somebody. You just want them to experience it. You gotta suffer through it.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
on the first one, I did have tears in my eyes at the end of it. The second one, not so much, because I guess I kind of knew what was coming. But Red Dead 2 is absolutely the game that brought tears to my eyes. And so I didn't see this one as that emotional compared to Red Dead. I don't know.
Can't make that
Maybe
comparison myself, but I'll defer to the panelists.
Red
Not
Dead's a
a Red
man
Dead.
tears game, though. That's different.
Yeah.
Is this where we shout out Gareth Coker then, and like
Yeah.
his score just
Yeah.
peppered through the entire thing, and again, like it's one of those things where Steven Soderbergh took Indiana Jones and made it black and white and took the talking out of it and just left the soundtrack in it, and you appreciated what John Williams did to make that a silent movie, basically with Spielberg and Lucas. I wonder if the opposite happens here. That if you take the music out of it, does it hit the same way or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Dan, you've unlocked a real moment there where, yeah, is Star Wars the same without John Williams? Are these Ori games the same without that soundtrack? Because that, like, I've been just listening to the soundtrack on my own, and without the game, and it is so solid. Like, it really brought the emotional element to every part of the game. Just like Star Wars, John Williams brought it. Just like Harry Potter, John Williams brought it. But the soundtrack on both Ori games was so impressive.
Yeah, I can't imagine these games without the soundtrack. Like, there are games where I will just like I can mute this and just put on something else. Not Ori.
Yeah.
And
Not at all.
I did, you know, they notoriously have very high standards for my OSTs list on Channel 3. I'll link to that in the show notes too. Make Dan do more work. And it has 3 games: Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and Persona 5. And I refuse to put anything else on the list unless it measures up to those standards. And just, I still remember. I don't remember what award show it was, or if it was like maybe it was an E3 back when E3 was actually cool, and existed. Speaking of that generation, it was a couple years before Willis was going to come out, and it was the reveal. They had Gareth Coker out on stage playing a grand piano, and I was like, this sounds like Ori, but it's not. Oh my gosh, they're doing an Ori sequel. And it was just so incredible to hear that.
Huh.
I find that clip, but it'll take me longer than we have tonight. I'll link it tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to hear that. I want to see more about this. I want to hear more.
I have to find that because that's up there with the God of War 2018 reveal in 2016. Like, what's this game Sony's teasing, and then suddenly you see what's happening. You're like, oh, let's go. Now I have to find that now.
But I'm gonna get back on my soapbox quickly with Red Dead. I've told my wife, like, at my funeral, I want that's the way it is played. Like, that's from Red Dead 2. Like, that's what I want played at my funeral. And so the whole Red Dead soundtrack is absolutely incredible. But Ori is right up there.
Like each piece, you know, it moves with the story, and like, you know, Dan says, you know, it's not short of the word manipulation, but it's close. Yeah.
I will use augmentation in this case because there's a difference. This is a medium that
agreed.
is augmenting and elevating the material. Again, I think material that does hold up. The animation, and I probably have to look up what they've done as far as animating Ori and the design of Ori. There's a great deal that went into Ori as a character. As small of a sprite as it is, it's still extremely expressive. The flowing and everything, like all of that's a matter of this. The soundtrack augments that. The soundtrack's not like ripping you out of it and making you feel differently. So it's an augmentation, not a manipulation. Yeah.
Dan, absolutely. Yeah. Manipulation is to tell you you're wrong and here's how it is. But the augmentation is to say, here, you care. You want to care. And you're going to move forward because you care and you want to.
Mm-hmm. You hit those story beats, like the opening, the corruption of the forest, the removal of the light, and it starts. You start with this kind of majestic score, and then you can hear just kind of tonally shift down, or you get to one of these flashback scenes. Like that's another thing that those areas they added in Blind Forest Definitive Edition, where they show these kind of flashbacks of how life used to be in the forest. Whoa, it's hit hard. And I think it was a nice addition because those just weren't there. I mean, almost nobody plays the game the first time in the non-definitive edition these days because you can't even buy it. It's delisted.
It's called the definitive edition, not the hey, this might be better edition, or like hey, we think you should probably try the. It's the definitive edition.
Yeah, but you can still miss those areas. No names mentioned, but rhymes with Stan.
But
and if you do, you're
let's call him Dan T. No wait, that's too obvious. Let's go with D Tucker. Let's see that.
Yeah.
Info with what you just said. I'm probably going to listen to the soundtrack again tonight with a tear in my eye with what you just said. Like about how when you go into the man, yeah, that's going to hit hard.
Oh, the Kuro's Rage piece is the one that always that one always sticks out to me when I'm listening. That soundtrack's a standard routine, just like in the playlist, and that one always always hits.
Just, you've got great music for just kind of vibing in the background, and there's energy there.
Like it moves between the kind of got tranquil. I think one time we've had a quest. I think someone posted on it recently, which I think I saw. There was like best water level music. I think my pick for that is Luma Pools. I mean, I argue it's a water level, and that music there, it brings you into this aquatic environment. The music feels.
You can smell it. You can smell the music.
Yeah, you can smell the music. Perfect.
Huh.
But then, and I'm surprised more people don't. And maybe it's just because I played the game so many times. Like that boss fight there, against Perqualak, that hurts me. Like Qualak, he looks cool. Like, oh man, here's this knowledgeable old elder frogish kind of creature, and he's gonna like help us. He's gonna teach us. And then he gets corrupted, and man,
and you get to beat him to death.
Yeah.
Is this where you're gonna set me off on my rant, or do you want me to? I'm saving.
No.
I just got.
No, Dan.
Let's go. Let's segue. Dan promised to in case you somehow only listen to this discussion and you aren't regularly listening to What Are Your Three on Channel 3.
I just want to say
that Dan claimed and promised he would be the heel on this recording. Go ahead, Travis, and then we'll let Dan be his heel.
yeah, absolutely. I hadn't considered all what you said about the Luma Pools and the heel and the boss and the music, but when I play it through again, because clearly I'm going to, I'm going to give that more attention, and that's what I love about Book Club, Video Game Book Club, is that, like, think about this next time. Anyways, Dan, fire away.
All right. So I'm going to take over here, and I'm doing this in the interest of stimulating conversation. So I'm going to need about 10 minutes here. Clear the zone. Give me the rock. Whatever. All right, so this is going to start off with also my wife having to hear me mention that like this is going to involve her and she's going to be listening over from the office next door and like what is going on here. So I'm going to start off with a story where I'm watching First Blood on TV one night. I watched this before going to bed. And my wife comes in and she goes, "Oh my god, this is really good," because all we've had is just Rambo as a Weird Al and Hot Shots Part 2 and all that. That's the vision you have of Rambo, greased up Stallone. Not, Stallone with 0 kills. There are 2 deaths in that movie that are not his fault. It's their fault. He didn't kill them directly. And that's how I view Ori and the Blind Forest. And I'm going to also reference infocynic's favorite Arise, A Simple Story, because I appreciated what they did with Ori and the Blind Forest, and this is my segue. This is where it ties into Rainbow. The light is corrupted, and how do you deal with that game? That game is built around escapes. That game is built around using the light to defeat the darkness, and most of your attacks are actually deflecting the darkness back at itself. Most of there's no boss fights. You literally escape everything,
Yeah,
and then
bashing against
you kick stuff back. Sorry, Trav, go ahead.
Bashing the whole Jinso tree. Like I said, the whole bashing was so miserable. But you're right. That's how you win.
So there's a metaphor in all of this for me that I really appreciate about the light repelling the darkness. Ori bringing the light back to the forest, the darkness defeating itself. And most importantly, when you get to the end of the game, you don't murder Koro. You don't beat Koro to death. You escape. And Koro sees the light. Koro sees the found family that's there. Koro sees the love and it's like, oh my God, what did I do? I'm about to destroy everybody else's family just out of rage. And instead goes and fixes everything and sacrifices herself. And again, like, you're not actively causing any damage. So there's a beauty in that to me. Okay. Then you go into Will of the Wisps, which is Rambo 2, which is no longer, you're no longer operating in the novel. And Ori has the Die Hard, now I have a machine gun, ho, ho, ho. Like, going in, guns blazing. You have a sword off the bat. And I'm conflicted, right? Because there's an element where, okay, now Ori's fighting for something to protect Ori's friend. And then there's the whole, all right, so the other part of this, right? So your main villain, is it Shriek? Is Shriek the name of the main villain in the second one?
Yeah, Shriek.
So Shriek, first of all, becomes a villain because the owls are jerks. So again, the owls are the problem here. So I just want to get that out of the way first of all, because
Herbs are jerks.
Yeah, so because the little owls are like, hey, come on over here, we'll be your friend, no problem. The adult owls are jerks, and then like sets that entire story off. But anyway, so like you talk about the fight in the water, and there's something about like, okay, you got to beat the frog to death that's being manipulated and carried as a puppet by that thing in the background. I don't know the names terribly well. And like, okay, I whatever, it is what it is. But like you go through all these fights, you start beating everything mercilessly, and then you get to the end fight, and as opposed to the escape, and as opposed to the self-sacrifice, and opposed to the returning of the light, no, you just beat it until it gives up. And there's something about like, okay, it choosing to go and just dry out and die with everything else, as opposed to like, okay, you go and you have this moment of salvation, and Ori uses the light to bring everything back, and the family, like, there's just something about that just doesn't, it feels wrong to me. And it may be a proximity problem because I had not played Will of the Wisps before. Like, I had started it, but something else came out, whatever it was, and like I never got into it. But there was just something about this whole thing of like this first game of like, you're not a pacifist in the game, but like it is a bring the light. It's everything else with that. And then you go into Rambo 2 and you're like on a murder spree to kill everything. And you've got all these weapons that are there. And it just, there's something about it that just like feels wrong to me. and I may be alone in that. I don't know.
I just want to quickly say, Dan, like I've never thought about it that way. But again, what I love about Video Game Book Club, you have probably a point, and I'm going to play both of them again, and I'm going to absolutely think about that.
And I still loved it, to be clear. I still loved the second game. It's just like I had that nagging back of my head thought.
I'm in the same boat as you, Dan. Like that's what I thought too. I enjoyed the first one just like you, and then next it just changed, a very different dynamic, and I'm just like, okay, let me. This is not what I'm used to. So it took a while.
And Ray's going to be listening to this after the fact. He's up in the mountains right now. He can't actively participate in this right now, but I do just want to leave this moment here for Ray to lose his mind, throw his phone, yell at his car. He's going to get all that out of his system because he has a vague idea of what my take is here. And I know he wholly disagrees because he loves the combat of the second game. He dislikes the first game for the opposite reason. It feels like combat's an afterthought. Not to throw Ray's words out here, but I know I'm not going to have a popular take here. Or like I said, it's something I'm just like. And again, I joked about Arise, but there's a beauty in Arise to me of like the levels where okay, you have to point the sun because there's light in the world, and then you have to like get away from the darkness and bring the light in another one. You have to bring the fractured pieces back together in another way. Like there's a beautiful symbolism, and maybe that impacted me here. I don't know.
It sounds like a puzzle game. That's what you're trying.
Well, yeah. So Arise is absolutely a puzzle game, but it's just But it's like there was an intentionality to every level's design and where it was in the story, and I appreciated it's a simple game. It is a very light puzzle game, but I appreciated narratively what they did, and I felt that they did that with the Blind Forest here, and there's something about Will the Wisps where I'm like, okay, maybe Ori's actively fighting to fight for the family and fight to save Ori's friend and all this stuff that like maybe there's something they were trying to say there, but it feels off.
I can tell you two things about what they're trying to say. So they intentionally designed like they always had this in mind, like it would come full circle, and that there's a lot of parallels between the games. You basically have two mother figures of Cure and Shriek, and one's losing children, one's lost parents. But they said intentionally they wanted to show someone who basically rejects the peace offering, rejects and cannot accept the love that is being offered because it's so alien and so foreign to what they've experienced their whole life.
What peace offering was offered to Shriek?
They tried at the very after the
after they beat Shriek to near death. Is that the okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they tried before that. Like, she could have just retreated from the light. She could have just left. After you get signed and you've gotten the 5 wisps and it's restored to full form. You have that cutscene. The light bursts and Shriek has to retreat. She could have stayed gone. She could have stayed gone. Or
again,
she could have made her peace.
I can't wait to replay this. Having listened to you guys, I cannot wait to replay this.
That their species rejected Shriek. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay.
keep going, infocynic. Sorry, I just had to say. I cannot wait to replay this.
No, but this was intentional. Like they very much they wanted to do this. They wanted to kind of have a story where in the first game you kind of have the bad guy getting redemption. They're both tragic stories. Both main antagonists have absolutely tragic stories, but they're presented differently in how they respond when they're given a chance. And it's that difference in how they respond when they're given the chance that makes the difference. That makes the tonal shift between the redemptive arc of Kuro and then getting in the sequel we get Ku, which is great. Love that friendship that Ori and is to develop. And then in the second game we've got Shriek, who's just this you know seems to absolutely reject and is wants nothing to do with the light whatsoever.
Tune in next Wednesday to party night when Ray lets me have it for this. Go on.
Yeah, probably.
So I apologize for derailing, but I've been sitting on both barrels being loaded for a month now. I finished April 27th, and like I had it for the week and a half, 2 weeks playing.
I appreciate it's a good discussion, and it gets into let's actually use that to pivot to kind of a critique or analysis. Like one of the things, and we know Dan's not wrong. I've seen Ray comment on it several times. The difference between the two games is, by and large, it's the combat. The first game generously could be considered to have combat. You press a single button, it shoots a thing at auto targets. That's great. Okay, you can also play games with Bash and Stomp in the first game, and you absolutely should. It does do way more damage, by the way. That's your free tip for replays. If you're killing things with Spirit Flame, you're doing it wrong. If you have other options, use them. Second game, like almost immediately get a sword. I did have fun, and I recommend it as a way to mix up your subsequent playthroughs. Is like as soon as I had something other than the sword, I disallowed myself use of the sword for the entire playthrough. Just to say, okay, we're gonna try this. Hammer is an easy comparison because it's it doesn't cost energy. I think a really challenging run would be to use something like Spear as your primary weapon. That costs so much energy, but you have those options in Ori 2. And in Will-O-Wisp, you've got all these different weapons. You get a bow, which you can, in fact, actually turn into a machine gun. Dan literally stole
ho ho.
Yes, I did submit that clip too. Mowing.
I know. I mixed my references with Die Hard and Rambo. Okay, I know what I did. It was on purpose.
Yeah, you can absolutely mow down Kolak in under 30 seconds if you know what you're doing, which is crazy for how hard that fight is for some people.
Is Trav okay? He's just like
sure. No, I'm here. Oh no, we're you guys keep going.
So what do we think? Did the combat improve the game? I must laser focus on that question. Is the second game improved by having combat?
I would say yes, just because it adds a little bit more challenge. Like when you have to use your arrows to when you hit the eye, that blue eye, when that pole comes out, it was just a challenge for me. So I would say it was an improvement. I liked it, but I also have my dislikes. I have to unlock so many things. I got to do a quest. I got to do this. I got to do that, and I'm just like, no, I don't have time for that. I just want to get to where I need to go. But like I mentioned in my review for the Blind Forest, like if you have the patience and you want to be a completionist, take your time. Take your time playing this game. You don't want to rush it. Once you figure it out, then you can run it. Try to do a speed trial like everyone else does.
100%. I thought the second game was better with the combat, and maybe that's because I figured out how to bash, and so I really enjoyed actually in the combat, the stadiums, the scenario, whatever the right term is. Like I really enjoyed just hanging out and just bouncing off everybody because I finally figured out how to do it, and so I really enjoyed the second game for that.
To be clear, they made the combat fun. It was really well made. I like the way you had the options for how you wanted to do it. Infocynic not wanting to use a sword, good for you. Good. I can say it easily once you get like some of the energy absorption and bonus drops and all that stuff. It's a lot easier, undoubtedly. But I will say, listen, as much as I had that like left brain, right brain yelling at each other thing. The combat was great. Like the great gameplay is great.
I have no arguments with how the combat plays technically. I just still come down on the I didn't need this. I don't mind it, but I don't think it was necessary. And one of the reasons I still like the first one just a little bit more is kind of that purity of focus on this is a Metroidvania that's more about the movement than it is about the combat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why Ray doesn't like it. We'll just keep talking for Ray. He's not here. That's what he gets.
Ray, we hear you. Just understand, we hear you.
We hear you. We hear and we understand, and we actually do judge here, but we only judge Ray, Dan, and Jube. And Jube isn't even here, so we can say whatever we want about him.
The infocynic has a brand to maintain, okay?
Okay.
Oh yeah, and Smigel.
Quick aside, I want to throw it out there. So I've been struggling with Bowser's Reach. I was at 98%, and I was on the old YouTube tutorials to try to figure out what am I missing? What am I missing? And honest to God, guys, today I realized I didn't actually complete the time trial. That's what I was missing in Bowser's Reach.
Yeah, does count. Does count towards 100% completion.
What a kick in the teeth.
Anyways, I'm trying to figure out if that I had the same thing with one of the sections. It was a time trial that I didn't realize I hadn't hit.
Yeah,
I had the same thing. I don't remember if it was that section or a different one.
The one in maybe Sorrow's Pass. I don't think you can unlock your first time through, and so it's easy to maybe because you have to go through that area multiple times. So it's one of those things where I think you have to come back to it.
Well, and for me, when I was first in Bowser's Reach was well before I could actually get there in the game. Like, so it was just that lower part of it. And I swear to God, I had done it, but apparently I hadn't. And so today, man, to realize that that's what I had missed after going through Bowser's Reach like 4 times to try to figure out what am I missing. And it was the time trial.
Yeah. I want to take some of our fan submitted questions, fans, users, listeners. I put out a call for questions. This is our first time doing this as a podcast recording instead of a live chat. I took questions ahead of time. I think kind of, piggybacking on the same idea where we're talking about like, combat and how that changed the game. Dennis asks, do you feel that the RPG elements like NPCs, fetch quests, and upgrades were necessary additions for the sequel to be popular? Or do we think if Will-O-Wisp stayed more of a pure platformer, it would have been just as successful? And just to put some facts behind this before we get into the discussion of, using good old Metacritic, sorry, channels where you don't have enough ratings to be kind of a good sample size on this. The Metacritic scores are within a few points, but slightly higher for Will-O-Wisp, like 88 to 90. And
so
user scores.
That's the fun part about making a sequel. You can't just do the same thing again. And the game absolutely would have suffered if you just said, okay, we're going to make another game of just escapes and the same thing. Like, you have to do something different. I was mixed on some of the characters and some of the fetch questy stuff because like all those little meerkat looking guys look the same. You're like, wait, which one was it? I have to go. I know which one wanted. I know one of them wanted the hat, and I can't remember which one it was. And I should have pulled a blueprints and screenshot the one who said I want a hat so I can remember where I've got to go back to later. So I didn't mind it because you got enough of a benefit from doing these things to make it worthwhile. But it was kind of annoying having to remember, like, okay, who was it that needed it? Because it would mark on the map, like, okay, you found the map here, but I can't remember who it was I was supposed to take the map back to. And, like, where are they? So, like, that part was not the highest quality of life. But it was nice to see some more life in the world, some more some more activity, and you need to do something to iterate and not just run the same play again.
I would absolutely agree with what you just said. Yeah, like they advanced it, more story, more side quests. It was great. It was enjoyable.
I will agree too. The side quest pretty much is it's an add-on to the whole story. You get to experience the universe in different aspects, in different sections of the world. You know, so I I think they did great with adding that into the game.
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on what you all said. As much as I would have loved the game to stay, pure platformer, I think we could split the difference. I still think we could take this, we could add the side quest, we could add an expanded world that's more fleshed out, tone the combat down. We didn't need to go off the deep end, but it's fine the way it is. And Dan, like even on play number 7, play number 8, I still don't remember which stinking guy needs which side quest item. I have to look it up. It's so bad. It's I'm getting there. Like, and if I play it again in the next year, I'll probably remember. But after that, it's gonna fade. It's so bad. All right, next question. It comes from LL Cool Games. Wants to know what we think was personally for you, what the hardest jump, and I'll extend that to just like hardest platforming section in general.
I'll run it here. Before the Jitsu Tree final escape, just figuring out how to bash those flames. Yeah.
Right side Ginso, that bash puzzle where you've got to like bounce the little projectile through like 4 or 5 different relays.
Yeah.
It's a pain.
I will openly say I wanted to throw my controller at the screen so many times, and I didn't, which is a good thing for my screen and my family. But
That's why we need to CRT TVs back, Trav. You need the TV that can take a hit. Like, I got infocynic to react to that one. Okay, good.
Dan advocating violence against TVs here.
No, after that, nothing bothered me as much, but that Jinso tree right before the final escape. Yeah, screw this game. Anyways, back to you guys.
Info, what's your answer? We keep giving you till the end. You got to answer first this time. Second.
Okay. So I was thinking about this one. In Blind Forest, I want to say it's in the Moon Grotto, or vaguely in that area. There's a couple of collectibles that you can get with just double jump, because that's before you've gotten bashed. If you're down there, you're going down there to get the water vein, and they're really really hard jumps to pull off with just double jump. If you like, the game was not built for air dash, so I know it's not technically required, but man, it makes it a lot easier. Or triple jump. Bash doesn't help a whole lot. Just really nothing to bash off of. But you don't have feather yet either. So you're doing these very very precise jumps. You're like dropping down off something, jumping to switch sides of the thing you were holding on to, and kind of doing this like 2 or 3 times in a row, jumping over to a wall. Then you've got to shoot your spirit flames at the stupid enemy that's above you. Is going to get in your way if you try to climb the wall. Below you is water, which, by the way, is still poison because this is pre-Ginso tree. You can come back here later. It's much easier, but that's not the point, man. The point is to get the collectibles as soon as you see them.
Sorry, I'm really enjoying this because you've played it so many times and you're so good at it, obviously. And I've only played it once on easy, and to hear your frustration, oh God, I love it.
That and just in general, like Blind Forest trying to go fast or do the immortal run. Blind Forest is very very unforgiving on either of those fronts. Blind Forest
Saturn,
speed.
what's yours before I jump in?
All of them. I don't have a specific one. How was it? All of them I had the same challenge. Like I just kept in the same spots. And once I got further, I slip up and then I'm back to where I started. And I'm just like, okay, I know what to do. But then once I start again, I hit the same spot. And it's just like, ugh. So I have to go on YouTube and be like, okay, what did I do to get through this? Because this is just frustrating right now. So
Shout
I
out to
don't.
Will of the Wisps save system by comparison.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
yeah.
Yes.
That's what we didn't even know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
New
Yeah.
players to these games, Blind Forest, man, save early, save often, unlock the abilities that make saving cheaper and restore health. Those are must-haves.
You know what? That I'm glad you mentioned that because in Blind Forest, I kept forgetting to save, and then when I eventually remembered, I'll save so I can like, okay, if I die here, I'll go back to where I want to be. But there are moments when you don't have any more of the spirit, the energy. So then you're like, I can't save. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And a half an hour later,
Yeah.
you're in trouble. Half
Right.
an hour, right?
That was especially true for me on hard because I'm using that energy not necessarily because I need to save, but because saving gets me turns one energy point into one life point, and that's going to keep me alive for a little bit longer on hard mode.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll give my anti shout out to the Wind Temple now in Blind Forest because
Yeah, that place
the
is a pain.
sheer number of times the anti-gravity puzzles got the best of me, and again, that was just my roughest escape. So just the anti shout out to that one. I feel like you don't the other temples, the other areas of activity. And I guess I realize the part that bothers me the most is like again, you talk about the water escape. You're learning how to use bash by fire. There's nothing that you learn in the Wind Temple that helps you again later to the same degree. There's not another anti-gravity chamber. What are you worried about? Like I don't know. But anyway, that's the part that on my second playthrough for this killed me the most easily.
Yeah, the Wind Temple is a choice. I appreciate what they did with it. It was very different, and I think technically it works. I think it's very hard. It's a very technically demanding area, and that is an area where on my immortal playthrough, I had to just be very, very slow, deliberate, methodical, and I would it's make a tiny tap. Like, okay, if I press left, which way am I actually moving on this block? Is that going up? Is that going down? Just to make sure I knew which way I was aligned before I took that big leap. Oh,
Oh, that one. The one with the ice is just, yeah. Oh, I think I died maybe about 50, 75 times.
I can't even imagine. When I looked at some of those achievements, like the immortal, and then pointing out that you have done it, kudos, dude. I
All right,
just
so Trav gets to
can't
the point where we get to derail we get to derail infocynic's plans. He now gets the answer for this.
all right,
Talk us through this.
the immortal playthrough involves a lot of
No. You didn't ask the first thing.
No,
Why?
it involves insanity. Yeah.
The first question is why.
This is why.
First of all, how dare you?
Because the trophy is there. The achievement is there. It is meant to be gotten.
Yeah, and you know what I said when I saw it? I said, nah.
I know. My younger self and I don't always see eye to eye. You check the date on that trophy. It was probably
Fair enough. All right.
Because it was there. Okay, so you did because it was there.
Did it because it was there.
Okay.
I liked 100% games. I 100% a lot of games. I will 100% JRPGs that take 2 playthroughs of 100 hours each and think that's fine and fun and enjoy it. But this was less than that. There's a lot of practice. It's a lot of it's not something you do the first few times you play the game. And it's also something like you do when you're feeling like I'm familiar with the game. I understand the language of the game, and I also know from my past playthroughs where am I likely to struggle the most. Besides that, it's lightning quick reflexes because you are allowed if you see that death, I am not gonna make that jump. I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna hit that spike, and that's gonna be death. You can pause and quit. Like you have a fraction of a second to do that.
Oh.
How many times did you unsuccessfully pause?
You don't even know.
But interesting. Really good point. But I'm not that dedicated to the game. But
yeah,
really good point.
So I mean, a lot of professional saves coming, and I don't say that disrespectfully. Like that's required. That's required for this. So the other question I had, like the only way that I might have a shot of being able to do this is if I did dual playthroughs at the same time. That like I did a section and then I went and did it on the immortal version of it. Like did you have to do that, or did you just have enough muscle memory?
Mostly muscle memory, but I did have a couple of practice saves on my other slots for like the escapes. I would go load up my save from that, practice that section, like, okay, I feel really confident I can do this, and then go over to my immortal run and load it up there.
Did you fail during your immortal run?
Did I fail during it?
Yeah.
Yes, I had to reset on Blind Forest a couple of times. I don't remember how many, but single digits, but a couple of times. Will-O-Wisps, I want to say I did it on the second time. And like I was really surprised too, because in Will-O-Wisp, like I didn't think I had died, but Will-O-Wisp makes it so much more annoying to check. And in Blind Forest, you can just pause the game; it's right there on that screen. Will-O-Wisp, you got to go back to town. You got to go talk to the stupid guy.
Oh, you got to talk to the lizard. Yeah.
And then say, "Oh, you want to see my records of you?" Yes, I do, because I want to see if that death counter is still 0. And that stinking feeling when you're 2 hours in and it's showing 1.
So that's why I was wondering, what was the worst stretch you had? Were you like 2 hours in and it got you?
I don't even know, because that one death, I don't know what that was. Like when I reset that run, it was like I don't remember where I died. I didn't think I died anywhere. I totally missed it or spaced out.
Okay, so
you don't.
Because I was also wondering, like in Batman, in the Arkham games, there's like the whatever the mode is of like there's a permadeath mode basically. I didn't know if they had this in here that you had to do like the permadeath mode, but no, you could just save scum yourself and your phone.
There is a permadeath mode for Blind Forest, and that is a trophy I do not have.
Okay, so that's okay. So they are mutually exclusive. That you do not have to. You don't have to do that to get the Ori Immortal. Okay.
Right. So to get Ori Immortal, you're allowed to save. You're even allowed to load a backup save, but you got to be real careful relying on backup saves, because those get overwritten really fast. But yeah, in one life mode, they literally lock your save file out, and it shows up like dimmed and like with an X over it on the menu. You can't load it if you die. And even worse, like that they went again to steal from Hollow Knight. That was added in Definitive Edition, which I don't know. I don't know if Hollow Knight was out before Definitive Edition or not. Good question. Check those. But if you're playing one life mode on top of a file where there's a death, a failed one life mode, they put a marker where you die that basically gives you like a full level up. the problem with that is that like it's an animation buffer and it causes like you just like abort your movement. It's like that is literally the opposite of what I need. This is the section where I died. I do not need anything distracting me or interfering with my movement here. So the advice is delete your failed one life because it's not doing you anything good. And also just don't try one life.
I will never get that trophy, and I'm okay with that.
Agreed. I just want to throw out there again for the first game or first story. I was over 800 deaths on easy mode, and I'm okay with that. Like, I can still sleep well at night. On the second game, having understood the physics more, it was less than 300. So I feel really proud of myself for just understanding things more, getting gaming under control. But yeah, I'll play them both again.
Final
I
thoughts from
apologize.
anyone
I totally
here?
derailed it for say he had his
No.
questions lined up and everything. Yeah, that was the
No,
spot we had
no.
to do that though. I'm sorry.
You actually hit me right at the end. I was about to go to outro, so you did not manage to derail me despite your best efforts.
I didn't want to, but it was a perfect spot to drop it
Yeah.
in. We had to do it.
Yeah. Will-O-Wisps is a lot easier. Just to final thought of myself on Immortal. Two reasons. One, there's way less instant death in Will-O-Wisps. Two is
Agreed.
I think
found that. Yeah.
Between the side quests and between the versatile options you have with combat, I feel like it's easier to avoid dying in the second one.
Except for that stupid cave, that dark cave. But okay.
Oh, Dan, the dark cave. I did validate that claim.
Like you do not have to know a priori where you're going. You just have to watch the game's cues. It tells you where to go. There's never a spot where you have to navigate on faith. I checked.
All right, children.
Touché.
Yes, agreed. All right.
Bring my final thoughts on Ori Immortal for Will-O-Wisps. The section where I really have to watch it. It's not the dark cave. You have to be careful there, but it's really not that bad. But the swamp at the beginning of Sorrow Past, where you've got to jump and bounce off these bubbles that are appearing and disappearing, that took a lot of practice to be comfortable with. Like, I know what these timings are. I know kind of what my backup strats are. If it looks like I'm going to miss a bubble, that section is that one still gives me anxiety. That's probably the one section where I was like, because that's late in the game too, relatively. You're a couple hours in by that point.
So, infocynic, with your Immortal runs, give me approximate, like how many times have you run through the first and second game?
In total, probably I was saying probably about 10 times for the first game. Maybe a couple more because I wasn't considering the runs that I would have done because I had all achievements unlocked on the base Xbox edition, the launch edition, and then I went back and when the definitive edition came out, it's a sole separate trophy list. So I did all of those again. There was no Immortal on the first. They added that in the. Was there Immortal in the first one? Honestly, we'll have to look. Get back to you. Probably, maybe let's call it a dozen to 15 on Ori 1. One of the few games I've also played on Steam, so that adds a couple playthroughs. I love this game. And then probably 8, maybe on Will-O-Wisp. Because Will-O-Wisp has it has more trophies that are hard to do in a single run. Like there's a trophy for spend no spirit life, and there's a trophy for equip no charms. Trying to do those at the same run, and like, oh yeah, and also we'll do it hard and a speed run. No, I'm not that insane. Like that's multiple playthroughs doing one of those challenges.
And I asked that, like, for me, on my first playthrough on both of these on easy, like, when I looked at some of these achievements, like, there's no way. And so, yeah, I really wanted that feedback on what does it take, and good on you. That's incredible.
Yeah. Other than Immortal, all of the achievements are readily doable by a second or third playthrough, I would say. You'll be surprised at how much you improve.
I would agree. Yeah.
Great games. Everybody
Yeah,
should play them. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Final thoughts here. Shannon, let's go to you. I haven't heard from you in a little bit. What would you say to someone to either get them to play these games or just share some favorite memory you've got?
If you like video games and if you like just emotional experiences with video games, this is absolutely the way to go. The soundtrack absolutely sucks you in. The story, yeah, once I got there, the physics, it was incredible. And I'm so glad that this group finally gave me the kick in the butt to finally do it, because I had wanted to. I'd heard about it, and I'm so glad I did it.
Adam, your thoughts?
Same as Trav. I've heard about the game, many moons ago. People talk about it, how the story is great, and I didn't get much spoilers out of it when people were talking about the game, and I had to give it a shot. I had to play the game, see what everybody's talking about, and especially in Blind Forest, the ending, it made a lot of sense. When in the beginning, I had a hard time understanding the story, like trying to figure out, okay, this is just about the dark and the light. Okay, this is just one of those type of games. But once I had completed that game, it all made sense to me personally. Like, oh, this hits hard. Okay, now I understand why this game can pull your emotional strings. So I recommend it. I recommend it to people who have the patience and want a challenge, and they like Metrovania games. So it's worth it.
Gareth Coker is my white whale. I will continue to nag his PR people until somehow we make this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The composer for these games also wrote some music for a little game that you may have heard of.
Hello?
What was it called? Oh, right, Minecraft. Not all of it, but he contributed to music for that game.
I had done he was responsible for some stuff in Halo too. I mean Halo. Sorry, hold on.
Yeah. Halo Infinite, and then more recently, Prince of Persia: Lost Crown, which is another fabulous Metroidvania everyone should play. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, I've talked enough about if I've played the game 10, 15 times, you don't need to hear it from me. Like, I'm going to tell you to play these games. These get 5 stars on my notoriously brutal rating scale, which says, everyone should play this game. I don't want to hear your excuses. And any final thoughts here?
No, great games. They are required reading. They are part of the video game canon. They are a must play. And
Absolutely.
Everyone's better for it. And but again, the soundtrack is just one that I just have playing on a loop constantly. Like, if just any music in the background, on it goes.
Honestly, what Dan just said, like, this game, both the games, I am so glad I finally played them, and this is what I needed to actually play them. And the soundtrack, again, I'm a music nerd, but the soundtrack was so incredible, and the amount of emotion that it brought to this game. Yeah, I'm gonna redo this, and I hope everybody does.
Well, with that, I'm going to make that our final statements on Ori and the Blind Forest, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this video game book club podcast recording, first ever. But went okay. We'll do more of these in the future. Administrative in-house, we've got currently playing Blueprints this week, new indie darling. I may have gone off the deep end slightly and played like 80 hours of it in the past 3 weeks. Don't ask where that came
Again,
from.
Infocynic has a brand. That's fine.
Next week, I need to actually pick a game, so we're gonna do it here. We're gonna do it live. We are calling for Celeste. Next week will be go mess around in Celeste for a week. I don't care what you do. I'll pick a quest. It'll be something. But that's another indie darling everyone should check out if they haven't already. And again, they talk about games with brilliant music. Not the Gareth Coker, but you can't win them all. Still an amazing soundtrack that I'm going to consider making that number 4. I'm going to consider it on my OSTs list. After that, we will be starting our next main game, which will be Tomb Raider 2013, led by infamous, notorious, illustrious Darth Spiegel himself. He's taking point on that game, so we'll look forward to seeing you then. Special shout-outs to everyone here. Thank you, Dan, Trav, and Saturn for your participation. And special shout-outs to Joel Willis, our executive producer on Channel 3. And we'll see you all in the future. Good night.
Channel 3 is the future.